What's going on, guys? So I have a 5th generation 80 gigabyte iPod Classic here that the owner is wanting to upgrade to a 1 terabyte drive. He also wants me to back up the existing data on this iPod and then transfer it over to the new. So before I started this video, I kind of figured I would do that off camera, and what I did was I plugged it into power to charge the battery. I let it probably charge for maybe half hour or so, because you have to have a decent amount of charge for the iPod to, I guess, connect to a computer. If you just put a dead iPod, it's not going to have enough juice for it to actually pull data off of or connect to the computer. You got to have a little bit of juice there. So anyways, I let it plug into AC power for about a half hour or so. I pulled it off and the thing died right away. So something going on with that. The battery, for whatever reason, is not taking charge. So let's open this guy up and let's see what we can find. Actually, I think this iPod's been opened before. You can see that this is kind of pried outward just a little bit. Okay, so we're just gonna get in. Oh yeah, look how easy that came apart like that. You get in there and just release these clips. Like that. Like that. And, oh, hello. That one right there still. There we go. Okay, so as I always say, you want to resist temptation to just open this like a book, because you can rip. Actually, oh, well, maybe that's why the battery wouldn't charge, because the cable became dislodged. Oh, and there's the cable. It should be there. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, this definitely been opened before. Yeah, this is an aftermarket replacement. That's an aftermarket battery. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do then is we're going to plug this battery back in and see what's going on. See if I can get it charged and see if I can actually extract the data off of this. Okay, battery's definitely dead. So I'm going to plug it in real quick, let it charge, and then we will see what happens. Okay, so this battery here was junk. I plugged it in for half hour again, and as soon as I unplugged it, it went dead right away. Battery itself is not taking a charge at all whatsoever. So what I did was I put in just a different battery, and the battery itself already had charge. I plugged it into power. According to the iPod itself, it did get the little lightning bolt indicating that it was charging. And from there, I was actually able to extract all of the data off of this iPod, so that's fantastic for the customer. So now that we have that part done, let's get this thing upgraded to 1 terabyte. Okay, so sometimes, okay, so there's no plastic piece on this one here, so we will have to move this one over here. Take these off. Okay, that is done. Set that aside. So, I really like it when I get new rear cases that have this plastic protective layer over it. Sometimes they'll just send them to you wrapped in cellophane, you know, kind of something, you know, like that. And then you got to take it out, and you got to, you know, wear gloves and you get your fingerprints all over it. It's a mess. It's very nice when they come wrapped like this, so you can work on them without having to worry about gunking them up for the customer. Okay, so to get this guy on. Probably should have loaded up my screwdriver first. It's not fitting right. Maybe it's upside down. No, I had it right the first time. I mean, it's a little bent because it's following the curvature of the other one. The other one was bent, so we might have a hard time getting this on. Might have to see if I could salvage one from another case that is straighter. Nope, that bit okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, next thing we got to do is the headphone jack hold switch cable. Move these out here just a little bit to give us a little bit more room to work. Okay. Now before I tighten that one home, I'll leave enough slack in there to get the one on the right lined up. Okay, then go back and then tighten this one up all the way. Oh yeah, it ain't going nowhere. Okay, so the next thing we got to do then is then fit the hold switch. Come on. I hope this part can actually be a little finicky. I think it's going to be finicky. Nope, never mind. It's not going to be finicky. All right. Sometimes this screw right here it does not want to grab the casing part. So sometimes it can be a pain in the butt. Okay, let's get the last screw in. Okay, there's that. Okay, so next thing we want to do is get our SD cards in. Now, very important, and probably not as, important as it was maybe 3 years ago. 3 years ago or so, there was just a huge surge of counterfeit SD cards. And I mean, not just, no brand cards or anything like that. Like Samsung was affected, SanDisk was affected, PNY was affected. And what they would do is these counterfeit companies, they would make them look exactly like this. I mean, they'd look absolutely legit. And the only way that you could really tell is if you had a good one side by side with it. But other than that, they were very convincing until you got them plugged into your computer. So what they would do is the card would only be maybe 16 gigabytes, and they had a program that would make the card appear to be larger than what it was. So, 3 years ago or so, maybe even a little bit longer than that now, SD cards were stupid expensive for some reason. I mean, like a 512 gigabyte SD card was like $200, $150, something like that. And then you'd see a different branded one being sold for like 50. So everybody was like, "Oh my God, that's awesome!" And they were selling them on Amazon. They even got infiltrated. Like I found some bad ones at Best Buy, Walmart. I mean, these things infiltrated everywhere, and they would show up you know, it'd be like a 16 gigabyte SD card, and they would show up as 512 or 256 or 128 or what have you. Then you would get past that 16 gigabytes of real storage that it had, and then you start seeing data loss, and nobody really knew what the hell was going on. Well, come to find out, that is what was happening. And another way to tell is the way that the SD card showed its usable storage. So like on a 256 gigabyte SD card, with the way that hard drive companies write their data these days, 1 gigabyte is not 1024 megabytes. To them, 1,000 megabytes equals a gigabyte. So no matter what, you're going to get the not advertised amount of data. So on a 256 gigabyte SD card, you're only going to see about 237, 238 gigabytes, just because of the way that a computer reads a gigabyte and the way that a manufacturing company designates what a gigabyte is. So these counterfeit companies, instead of like a 256 gigabyte only showing 238, they would give you like the full 256. So that right off the bat was like, hey, there's something's weird here. Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling a little bit. But what you had to do when you bought cards like this is you had to test them. There was a software out there called H2 Test W. I'll actually link it in the description below. If you ever want to test your SD cards, if they seem, I don't know, if the price seems too good to be true or whatever. But what this does is it writes 1 gigabyte blocks, filling up what it says, filling up the hard drive space of what the SD card says. And then it goes back and it reads every single one of those blocks. Well, if it's not reading blocks, the blocks that it writes, then obviously you know that it's counterfeit. And you could see at about when it stops reading blocks. So it would stop reading blocks at like 16 gigabytes, and then everything after that, all the way up to 128 gigabytes, 256 gigabytes, whatever, would all be lost. So, anyways, probably not prevalent to today because I kind of feel like the counterfeit thing has been wiped out, but it's always a good idea, especially for larger SD cards, especially like the 1 terabyte ones. I've never tried a 1 terabyte one, but that's something I should definitely do because, I mean, I could just get a solo card if the 1 terabyte is actually legit. So, anyways, sorry, kind of got off on a little bit of a tangent there, so get back to this part. And then what we're going to do is we are going to tape these down, just in case. You can never be too careful. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do, take our spudger and our paper clip, and we're going to release this battery clip. Cool. And we are going to insert the aux cable back into the aux port. There we go. Close the little clip. Then we are going to insert this guy face down. Get the ZIF adapter cable in there, and then you just go back with your spudger and just make sure the cable is home. Not quite home there, a little tight on that end. And close the latch. And the last thing we got to do is this here battery. Okay, so this end towards the bottom, and what you do is you bend this up, bend that down, and you insert the clip right there. I don't like that spudger. There's that. And then you can slide it up under the aux cable. There you go. Okay, so before we close it up, let's test it. We want to see the restore screen. Come on, that ain't good. You know what? I'm going to plug it in anyway and see if my computer recognizes it. And I might just have to restore the hard drives or the SD cards. So I'll be back with you in just a sec. Okay, there we go. That's sorry about the angle. It's all washed out if I hold it the other way. But that's what we want to see. That's the restore page. The battery must not have had enough juice to bring us to this page because I plugged it. I started to plug it into my computer and I got a dead battery signal. And then I plugged it into power, AC power just now, and I got hit with, well, son of a bitch. Okay, well, we're gonna let it charge, and we'll see what happens. Okay, I am back. So I was kind of going back and forth between getting a restore page and the error page that you get where it tells you to go to iTunes.com or iPod.com or something of that sort. And I hooked it up to my computer. I was actually able to restore it by forcing the iPod into recovery mode, and you do that by holding menu plus center until the iPod reboots, and then as soon as the screen goes black, you press center and play. You do this while it's plugged into the computer. You press and hold center plus play, and then a new screen will pop up, and it'll say, the computer will say, "Oh, we found a iPod that needs to be restored." Blah 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 blah. You follow that screen, restore it like normal, and I thought it was good. I was able to put some music on it, and then upon testing, everything started up fine. I got one song, and then I went to check the buttons. I went to hit next to play the next song. It's almost like the whole iPod just froze. And so I forced a reboot on it by holding menu plus center until the iPod rebooted. And then I got back to the same error page again. Not the restore one, but the one where it tells you to go to iTunes.com or iPod.com or whatever it was. So then I figured, okay, well, there has to be some type of a disconnect somewhere between the hard drive and the motherboard. So I actually ended up swapping out the ribbon cable that attaches the hard drive to the motherboard. And that ended up being the culprit. Got everything all hooked up now. I tested it. Music is looking good. So let's put this bad boy back together. Okay. Check our sides, make sure we're together. And we are. Check power one more time. Actually, we'll check everything one more time and just make sure everything is working the way it should be. We have our charge symbol there. Awesome. Let's check headphone jack and buttons again just to make sure we're good. Okay, play works, next works, previous works, menu works, center works, and the hold switch works. Perfect. And I got both ears in the headphone jack. So we are good. Okay. So the last thing that I need to do then is I just need to reload this user's music that I extracted before I did the upgrade. But I can do that off camera. You guys don't need to see that. And that's about it. So yeah, that's how you upgrade an iPod Classic to a 1 terabyte drive. That'll about do it. You guys all have a good night.